Thought I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, YAHAWAHSHI, 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 Rakakadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders that I learned the truth from, the men at GMS and the brethren with a like-minded doctrine. This video is going to be about what the title reads here. It's a good documentary, you know. This is I'm not being paid. This is under the Fair Use Act. That I'm just using this for educational purposes. This documentary is this channel right here says Broken Chessboard. I advise is they have a section under the playlist, and it says Psychiatry, Industry of Death, and they got 11 parts. It's a good suggestion. I suggest watching all 11 parts, but I'm gonna just start at this part here, this portion, and part 4 for this lesson that I'm doing. First, it says Psychiatry, Industry of Death. So before we get into this video, we gonna get the definition of what psychiatry, Salakia, what psychiatry means.
Psychiatry.
So it said the study and treatment of mental illness, emotional disturbance, and abnormal behavior. And it also deals with the brain, the spirit. So we're going to go to the etymology.com and what psyche, what's the etymology of psyche? So it says of or pertaining to the human soul. That's what it is. Basically, they are trying to change or Edom, the wicked that the Bible speaks of, the self-proclaimed white man. He has come up with this pseudoscience of psychology, psychiatry, Salakia, psychiatry. I keep saying it wrong. Salakia. Yeah, this pseudoscience of psychiatry, and basically trying to state that certain people are ill because of situations and conditions that they're in. And Esau Edom is stating that these people or individuals are mentally disturbed, and he's trying to change their spirit, or disrupt their spirit, which is we also don't get that out of Habakkuk, Salakia, because he's the one that doesn't have the his spirit is not upright. Esau Edom. And what was the lesson? The video called White Psychiatry, Industry of Death, which is as death. That's in Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. Verse 4, and it says, "Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him," which is the point. "But the just shall live by faith." So Esau Edom, his spirit, his psyche is not upright, man. He's not righteous, man. He's wicked. And he's he got this method of pseudoscience, and basically stating that that people are mentally ill. Like the definition means, psyche means of the spirit, of the soul. So, which he in actuality is the one that's mentally ill. You know, according to the scriptures, he's mentally ill. He's psychotic. And reading the verse 4:15, I'm at Slakia, Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yea, also because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desires as hell, and is as death, which is the point. Because that's the title of that video, what industry of death. Because he is as death, you know. And the earth, pursuant to Job 9 and 24, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. And Esau, Edom, separate proclaimed white man is the wicked, you know. You can get that out of Malachi, the first chapter. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this video. Basically, it goes into eugenics, and it speaks of a lot of history in these documentaries. Is leaving off from Hitler using using psychiatry in the um the in Slovakia, terminating those so-called Ish people, the Jewish people over there. So he used this method also, which they used on the slaves. You know, eugenics and all these torture treatments, all these experiments. They were using that on the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans during slavery. You know, and they just brought that, you know, a modern day sense of of this um this pseudoscience, which I'm gonna just play a bit of this video.
Concentration camps and as a result of Nazi extermination policies. Rudin congratulated Hitler for making that is Rudin's 30-year dream come true.
After the Nazi surrender, an international court of justice was held to put psychiatry on trial for its war crimes. But American psychiatrists, fearing a permanent blow to the future of psychiatry, stepped in by shifting the blame onto a handful of German psychiatrists.
So right there, what he did, the psychiatrists of the American psychiatrists put the blame of the atrocities of psychiatry on the German psychiatry, which is Esau, Edomites against Edomites. You know, they just put the American psychiatrists put the atrocities on the Germans. You know, the Nazis.
There were some doctors who were prosecuted, but very few. Ernst Rudin returned to Switzerland at the end of the war. He did not serve any prison time.
One of the strangest things of all about the legacy of Nazi science is that some of the nastiest psychiatric eugenicists at the end of the war went back to work either in Germany or sometimes in the United States.
What began with a psychiatric plan to eliminate undesirable humanity had now spread throughout the civilized world and was responsible.
Look at all these individuals. Who are they? Edomites, man, self-proclaimed white man, the wicked man. You know, they come up because the earth is given into the hands of them, so they rule the world, man, in wickedness. So that's, you know, that's the indication of who this man is. Is this Esau Edom has control of the world, and he rules it in wickedness and unrighteousness and wickedness and evil. You know, that's Esau Edom. He like the thief. He come not but to steal, kill, and destroy. So that's Esau Edom. That's all he does.
For the murder of 11 million people. Never brought to justice, psychiatrists, as you will see, continue to advance eugenics around the world.
So what he said, they was never brought to justice. So that's Revelations, the 18th chapter in the 5th verse. So they was never brought to justice. Why? Because the Most High allowing this demon to do what he do, so he can bring ultimate judgment on them, the wicked, man. Esau Edom. That's what, even to the war crimes, even to this day, these presidents doing all these war crimes and atrocities, they haven't been brought to justice, man. Because the Most High, YAHAWAHSHI, is allowing them to do that. So this is Revelations 18 in verse 5, and it says, "For her sins have reached into heaven, and Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai have remembered her iniquities." You know, that's what it is. The sins of Esau Edom has reached up into heaven. You know, and it also says that he thought he thought he was one with the Most High. So, like, if I can find that real quick. Oh yeah, I couldn't find it, but something like, it goes something like that he thought he was one with the Most High, you know, or something of that, you know. If a brethren know it, you know, please post it. But I'm gonna go and carry on with the movie.
And today we see the results in racism, human misery, and unending social conflict.
Oh, Slakia, I wanted to bring this out too. Second Ezra's the 15th chapter, because you know what because Esau Edom, his wicked is has did this. Second Ezra's the 15th chapter in the 6th verse. It says, "For wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled." You know, Esau Edom, he's polluted the whole earth, the whole world with his wickedness, man. His democracy, you know, his way of living, his way of life, his policies, his philosophies. He's polluted the whole earth. So you know, because the earth is given into his hands. So you know, that's why, you know, just like it says, they haven't been brought to justice. These Edomites that committed these atrocities, as it is to this day. You know, with these war crimes, like I said, with these presidents and all the other wickedness that they getting away with Esau Edom, because the Most High is allowing the wicked Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, to continue in his reign of wickedness until till judgment day, man, which he's going to be judged, which we're closely coming to that day, you know, when the wicked will be put out. And I'm gonna continue with this video.
After World War II, a new eugenics was resurrected out of the bones and ashes of the old eugenics. The eugenics movement has been at the forefront to establish a new scientific racism that justifies oppression and exploitation and racism.
In fact, racism is inseparable from the roots of psychiatry.
The entire history of psychiatry, beginning with scientific conclusions that were made in the 1830s, was an effort to prove the intellectual inferiority of African Americans.
Benjamin Rush is the father of modern psychiatry. And he is the one that gave us the term nigritude. He said that all blacks have inherited this disease. And this particular disease, it caused them to be inferior. In addition to that, it was the reason why it was very important that blacks remain segregated, separate from whites, so that whites did not inherit this disease.
Asserting that negritude was a form of leprosy, Rush justified segregation as a medical necessity.
See what he said? Negritude was a form of leprosy. Letting you know that, you know, Esau Edom, he knew the Bible, man. You know, these elites, they know the Bible, which they try to turn everything upside down, which was that in Isaiah 29:16. He turning everything upside down. So he tried to put the so-called black man. Even they say that in the that religion, Mormon, that religion called Mormonism or whatever, the Mormons, they believe it. They believe that in their book, that they say the so-called black man is a curse because of his skin color. So that's what they said. This is they have a disease. It's a form of leprosy, which is leprosy is basically your skin having no pigment. You being just like the subchlorine white man, which he has no pigment. You know, his blood show forth through his skin. That's why he was red all over. So you know they turn everything upside down because just because everything is upside down because the wicked, the base man is in rulership. Esau, Edom. It's on the book of Job. He was um there was children of fools, yea, children of base men. So Esau, Edom is that base man which turned everything upside down.
And that became an argument to continue slavery.
The fact that you have brutalized a whole group of people had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with some genetic link, and that basically you were just a diseased person. So when a slave master wanted to get rid of a recalcitrant slave, they could just say, oh, well, they're suffering from this disease.
Drapetomania, that is the name of the mental disorder that was contrived by Samuel Cartwright, who said that blacks have a mental disorder if they had a desire to run away from slavery.
Running away became such a common problem that psychiatrists attempted to give that a disease. He says, but that's a cure for that. And the question was, well, what's the cure for that? Frequent whippings. You'd be surprised how that disease clears up when the lash is put in place of their excuses.
After slavery was abolished, psychiatric racism not only persisted, it intensified. The American Journal of Psychiatry officially proclaimed that Negroes, as descendants of savages and cannibals, were ill-prepared for higher civilization, while their pseudoscience eugenics stepped up its racist activities.
There is a clear and long and intimate connection between the eugenics movement and the Ku Klux Klan. Harry Laughlin, who was the Carnegie Institution's director of the Eugenics Record Office, had close relationship to the Ku Klux Klan through the publication of a book called White America, which was written by a major Klan leader. So Laughlin wrote a glowing review of the book in the Eugenics News. And at the same time, you have the Ku Klux Klan using eugenics to justify their racist goals.
But psychiatric racism wasn't exclusively American. Some of the worst abuses of the 20th century occurred in South Africa, where the government adopted the same racist theories and practices used by Hitler. This was no coincidence. The Prime Minister had studied eugenics as a psychology student in Nazi-influenced Germany in the 1920s.
Dr. Hendrik Verwoerd is regarded as the architect of apartheid. He saw South Africa as a divided state with whites, blacks, and brown people living in totally separate areas, with black people having no rights whatsoever.
With apartheid in place, psychiatrists established mental hospitals throughout the country that were in fact nothing more than slave labor camps.
These places operated under a private company by the name of Smith, Mitchell and Company. They were saving money through the cheap accommodation for psychiatric patients while making massive fortune out of money that Parliament had appropriated for medication. So it was a corrupt system.
When this operation was finally exposed, it was discovered that 67,000 prisoners had perished, while at the same time, psychiatrists had collected $117 million in funding from the South African government. The World Health Organization issued a report declaring that psychiatry cultivated racism and that apartheid did have a parallel in the ownership and trading of slaves. In 1971, in the United States, psychiatrist Louis Jolly West continued psychiatry's legacy of racism, hatching a secret aversion therapy experiment called the Violence Center. His government-funded plan: implant electrodes in the brains of African American and Hispanic males to shock them should they exhibit any violent behavior. And if that funded plan: implant electrodes in the brains of African American and Hispanic males to shock them should they exhibit any violent behavior. And if that funded plan: implant electrodes in the brains of African American and Hispanic males to shock them should they exhibit any violent
So what that look like there? Salaki.
behavior.
Wind it back, Salaki.
His government-funded plan: implant electrodes in the brains of African American and Hispanic males to shock them should they exhibit.
What is that? The MOTB, Salakia, Revelations, the 13th chapter, the 16th verse through the 18th verse. The MOTB, which they was been doing this, man, trying to implant you with this device. You know, that's the MOTB, man, which that's coming too. They gonna try to they gonna make it mandatory when they collapse the dollar and make the currency digital. This digital system that they got, which is the B system, you know, was they've been doing this. They're trying to put devices in to control you, which that's what it says. What give and into black and Mexican and Hispanic males to give them electrical shocks. Which said you could do all manner of things with this device here, this RFID thing, RFID device here. You know, they said they can is capable that they can send actual viruses to this device that infect your body. You know, send microwaves. Radio waves, and shut your whole body down because of this device here.
Violence Center. His government-funded plan: implant electrodes in the brains of African American and Hispanic males to shock them should they exhibit any violent behavior. And if that didn't work, chemically castrate them with drugs. When West's racist proposal met with public outrage, the plan was quickly shelved. Though psychiatry's unrelenting racist theories were blunted, they were not stopped. In 1994, psychologist Richard Herrnstein co-authored The Bell Curve, claiming to prove that blacks were genetically disabled and therefore inferior to whites.
The Bell Curve really argues a very old eugenics idea. It argues that people are born with different kinds of intellectual abilities, that these are inborn pretty much at birth. It goes back to the notion that somehow black people are genetically and biologically inferior to white people as a way.
So what they said, that so-called blacks are inferior to so-called white people genetically, and what they got on your grocery store shelf, them GMO foods, genetically modified foods, you know, and they don't know the long-term effects of these eating this man-made food that Esau Edom created, because he's trying to play the Most High on earth. You got genetically modified mosquitoes, you know, pigs, all sorts of animals, cows, fish, fruits and vegetables. You got all type of genetically modified organisms today that he created. He's trying to create life, you know. He's trying to alter life and create life according to how he want to run the world, you know, because the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Job 9:24. So, you know, so that's just a note out there, because that those genetically modified foods it's basically it's not in your favor to eat those things, because they had an ideal out there that the so-called blacks, which includes all the tribes, the so-called Hispanic and Latino and Native Americans, are inferior genetically.
Abilities, that these are inborn pretty much at birth. It goes back to the notion that somehow black people are genetically and biologically inferior to white people as a way to justify what was really programs of social racism and social sexism. And you see that kind of thinking going on in public school testing and IQ testing and educational testing and tracking.
And this new tool fit into that old mold. It was a new tool that could prove the intellectual inferiority of African Americans.
Psychiatric profession has done great damage, certainly in the past, and far too many in the present, too, to subvert democracy and perpetuate racial stereotypes, even more, deep racism in society.
We have to battle against this continual misinformation, disinformation, pseudoscience. It can be repackaged in whatever form or format it is. But if it is based solely upon the color of one's skin and then is the merit of that human being, I just reject it.
And so today, the flame of hatred continues to burn, fueled by pseudoscientific lies. This is the heritage of psychiatry, as a justification for racism and as a pretext for political repression.
So that's it, and that word repression means basically it just means oppression. It's another word for oppression, repression. So I'm gonna leave off with 1 Timothy, because that pseudoscience, that's what it is. Esau Edom, he rules in pseudoscience. Everything is pseudo. 1 Timothy, the 6th chapter, the 20th verse, says, O Timothy, keep thou which is committed to thy trust, avoid profane and vain babbling and oppositions of science, falsely so called, which that's going into that, is nothing being proven by science, man. Science means to know. If I'm not mistaken, that's what it means, science, to know. So all this stuff is, evolution, all these theories, the Big Bang theory, evolution, the theory of evolution, all that is pseudoscience, man. Even to everything, even to these mandatory jabs that they trying to have, that's pseudoscience. It's not proven to work, Just like I found that interesting, man, because it's a pattern here, man. Everything is everything that the so-called white man bring about is basically targeting a particular race of people, man, which is that Esau, Edom, Jacob and Esau, man. Because he's the wicked. Esau, Edom is the wicked, man. And Jacob, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans are the righteous, man. We are the holy people of the Bible. That's why we must come back to our power, YAHAWAHSHI, and do the commandments according to the best of our abilities, man. Because that time is winding down, and I just thought this was a good lesson to bring out. Psychiatry, which is basically dealing with your soul and your spirit. So I want to say I'm gonna end the video on that, and I'm gonna say YAHAWAHSHI, YAHAWAHSHI, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Shalom to the next time. Yahawah Ratazah, which means Lord willing, and Y Baba Ball, DTA soon.